My name is Vincent Creel, Public Affairs Manager for the City of Biloxi, here with today's report for Friday, April 9th, 2021. We'll have your weekend preview and forecast. We'll have the latest on COVID-19 and vaccinations, and a look at massive road work in Wool Market and infrastructure work in East Biloxi. And we head back to the beach for your moment of zen. But we begin today with the big story as we head into the weekend. Spring break and the spring break traffic plan. Joining me now is Captain Brian Dykes of the Biloxi Police Department. Let's get right into it. When people go to work Friday morning, they're going to see traffic cones. Explain.
Yeah, that's some of our preparations to make sure the traffic continues flowing during these citywide events that we have so often here in Biloxi. The one, of course, now is spring break. The cones will go out and they stay out the duration of the event. And all those cones do is they just help drivers to understand where the lanes are. And then they come into play a little further down our traffic plan also.
The traffic plan, you released something to the police department today to give people an idea of the different phases of the traffic plan. You used the word that these are general, broad triggers, right, so to speak. I've always viewed this plan as very fluid. Mm-hmm. Explain to people what the steps are of the traffic plan.
Well, it's a way for us to stay kind of fluid, but what we have is markers within the plan, these triggers that we call them, or these tipping points. And what it is if this, then that. Mm-hmm. So when traffic begins to slow, the first thing we'll do, and again, I'm speaking in very broad, mm-hmm, generalized terms, the first thing we'll do is we'll begin closing the unnecessary or unlighted crossovers, the way to get from eastbound 90 to westbound 90.
The left turn lanes, essentially.
Correct. We'll start closing those crossover points to help traffic flow a little better. People are not slowing down trying to make those U-turns. So once traffic slows considerably, that's when the intersections tend to start closing down. The minor intersections will close first, the larger intersections after as it progresses. The lights will go into flashing mode. That'll help, once again, traffic east and westbound, keep people from turning across.
What, and then as part of the ultimate part of the plan is when we have, you just make people keep going straight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the next phase we come to is once traffic slows considerably, where there's very little forward motion. Still, you get forward motion, but there's very little of it. Mm-hmm. What we'll do is we'll empty out that left-hand lane and put everybody in the right-hand lane. And the reason we do that is so emergency services can get to and from the citizens of the city in case of need. Ambulances can get to people's houses, fire trucks can get to where fire trucks need to be, the police can get to where they need to be. That becomes necessary once we reach that point where there's very little motion on the streets. And then, of course, the last phase of that is forward motion is just stopped. Traffic becomes gridlocked. And then once that happens, we have a plan where we force people to continue straight. And if you're westbound, you'll end up on Lorraine Cowan Road, mm-hmm, and up to the interstate. And if you're eastbound, you'll end up on the I-110 all the way up to the interstate. And that gives the traffic just a pause or a break to flush out, and then we can start getting people back into the event so that they can continue with their activities.
This plan is nothing new.
No, this is the exact same plan that we have for every single event that we have within the city. And the reason that we're able to have the same plan for every event is that we have those tipping points or those trigger points in that plan. If this doesn't happen, then we won't do this. If this does happen, then we'll do this. So it's handy to have a plan in place that tells us what we can do.
The other thing I like about it is the public should be familiar with it. Now, there is one thing that's going to be tweaked this year, mm-hmm, in the area between Camellia and Rodenberg. Mm-hmm. Explain that.
What we're doing is essentially we have, if you're familiar with the city, we have Rodenberg intersection, we have Veterans intersection, and we have Camellia intersection. And these are all major intersections with 8 directions of traffic, and they're all within a half mile of each other. That's traditionally been a slowdown point, every one of these events. Regardless of whether or not the police get out and try to override the lights and try to direct traffic, it's always been a slowdown because of that number of lanes all at one time. So what we've done is we've taken the service road that runs along Restaurant Road, and we've basically made that 2 lanes, one way eastbound. So all the traffic that's eastbound on Highway 90 at Camellia will be forced down onto that traffic lane. If we're at the point where the intersections have closed, they'll be forced down onto that service drive, and that will take them right past all the businesses they need to access while cutting those intersections out of the equation. So they won't be going through any intersections. Those intersections will be basically non-functioning. All the eastbound traffic will be on that service drive.
And it's only on the eastbound, westbound, still good to go towards Gulfport.
Because those are no longer intersections, that westbound traffic will just flow straight. The first light that you'll come to westbound would be Boulevard, and the first light you'd come to eastbound would be White Avenue. So basically it's unobstructed travel.
The biggest thing I believe that we can advise people this weekend, whether they are residents, whether they are business owners, or whether they are visitors, is patience with a capital P.
Yes, and unfortunately the citizens of Biloxi have been learning patience every weekend since the mask mandate was lifted. If you've been down on Highway 90 on any given Friday or Saturday, since the mask mandate was lifted by the governor, then you've seen that traffic has been typically what we're used to in the high days of summer with all the tourists down. But it's hitting us a little early this year, so patience is going to be the #1 virtue.
And please understand, we want everyone to come to Biloxi to have a great time, but we want them to have a safe time.
Correct. We want everyone to come down here. We want your events to be successful. We want to benefit from your event, and we want you to benefit from having your event in Biloxi. But we have the rules in place and these traffic plans in place in order to make that so.
Any closing thoughts, or was that it?
I think everybody coming here to have a good time is the right frame of mind to be in. We do have rules that have to be obeyed because unfortunately the police are responsible for keeping that type of peace, and the citizens that we served and have served for so long here in Biloxi have come to expect a certain level of service, and we can only provide that if everybody obeys the rules and has a good time.
Parking. Let's talk about parking real quick. Only park in the parking bays on Highway 90.
That's correct. The only parking on Highway 90 is allowed in the parking bays, and those parking bays are closed from 10 p.m. at night till 6 in the morning. So if you wanted to park somewhere else, you can park anywhere else where it's legal, but the beach or Highway 90 parking is closed from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that's not just for the event, that is every day of the year.
Year round. Captain Dykes, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come over, and I want to wish y'all a safe and really enjoyable weekend.
Well, thank you for having me, Vincent.
The detour route on Shriners Boulevard remains in place, with local traffic using the bypass and trucks and others using the full detour route. Here's a look at the massive drainage work. The box culvert to the right will be joined by 2 other box culverts, more than doubling the size of drainage in the area. Work began this week, and Shriners Boulevard is scheduled to be closed for another 2 months. But city engineers hope that the work can be completed well ahead of schedule, weather permitting. Meanwhile, down on Point Cadet, major league infrastructure work is underway. This is a look at the corner of Pine and First Street this week. This is just north of the Harris parking garage. The city's engineering department, in its weekday traffic report, announced that areas of Howard Avenue from east of Oak are closed. If you're going to the Palace, your easiest route remains to turn north on Myrtle Street off of US 90. The municipal party primaries took place on Tuesday, and now campaigning begins for the June 8th general election. To see where things stand, click on voter information on the city's website. And now, the COVID-19 update and vaccination report.
As of Thursday, April the 8th, the Mississippi State Department of Health reports 240 new cases of the coronavirus statewide, 5 new deaths statewide, and 18 new COVID-19 cases were reported in Harrison County. Overall, more than 306,000 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Mississippi, with more than 7,080 deaths. The state reports that over 17,400 cases of the virus have been documented in Harrison County since the pandemic began a year ago. Also, there have been 302 deaths reported in Harrison County. Here's the 14-day chart for Harrison County. As for the hospitalizations, the state reports that as of April the 7th, 172 patients with the virus were hospitalized statewide. 9 were in coast hospitals, and 6 of those patients were in intensive care units. The state also says that as of April the 5th, more than 295,000 are presumed to have recovered from COVID-19. As for the vaccinations, more than 1,300,000 Mississippians have now received a COVID-19 vaccination. More than 500,000 are fully vaccinated, and more than 34,000 residents in Harrison County have been fully vaccinated. Vaccinations are available for those age 16 and older. Individuals age 16 or 17 must call the Mississippi COVID-19 hotline at 877-978-6453 to schedule a COVID-19 vaccination. You may also call that number for more information on COVID-19. Vaccinations are still being administered at the Mississippi Coast Coliseum, some local health providers, and pharmacies. Links to appointments and more information about vaccinations can be found on the city's website at biloxi.ms.us. Please continue to follow all safety guidelines to reduce the chance of passing COVID-19 to others. That includes wearing a face mask and social distancing. This weekend, the weather is forecast to be humid and rainy. If you are looking for an indoor activity, Disney on Ice will be at the Mississippi Coast Coliseum. Just visit the Coliseum's website at mscoastcoliseum.com for more information. And if you are out and about and enjoying the weekend activities, text Biloxi to 99411 for traffic and weather advisories. We leave you today with a moment of zen along the beachfront with a visiting family and seagulls. We'll see you again next Friday.